March 1st, 2017. In a previous video, I made a do-it-yourself parts tumbler for about $50 that worked very well, but I found myself needing a much bigger one because my volume of work had increased so much. So I decided to build a much bigger version, a big brother of the other one. If you're interested in the other one, you can see my other video. On this particular one, this is made to tumble parts primarily, but you can tumble anything in it. And so I'm going to go over briefly with you how I made it, and then I'm going to show you a parts list with costs on it. So if you want to make one yourself, you can. Much better than a commercially available one that you're going to spend $400, $500, $600, if not more for. I made this entire one for about $160, but you could probably scrounge and get the pieces and parts that you need for a little bit cheaper, depending how resourceful you are. Anyway, there's the basic structure of it. It's made out of 1x3s as a frame. And again, the inventory list, the parts list will show you exactly what you need for specific sizes and pieces. The 1x3 frame holds the whole thing together. The support frames, if you will, are also 1x3s. You can see how it's mounted up there. What we have on the bottom, driving the whole thing, is a 1/4 horsepower, 3100 revolution, single phase, thermally protected motor with a 1/4 inch shaft, I believe. And then there's pulleys on it. That's flat. The rods were made at Home Depot, 36 inches long. You can buy them. They're in the inventory list. You can see that's a 4-inch pulley. The motor is mounted to that one block down there, just a support piece. And that's got a 1-inch pulley on it. These are pillow block bearings. The one on the right is a full greasable bearing. It's got a grease fitting on it. The one on the left does not have a grease fitting on it. That little roller bearing right there is just to help the barrel tumble along. I put a fan. I mounted a little fan. You can buy at Target for $5 or some store like that for $5, Walmart, just to keep the engine cool. The engine's thermally protected, but it does tend to overheat when it's running for a long period of time. So I put the fan there just to help it cool off. See, there's 2 more roller bearings in the middle that separate the 2 barrels. And on the end here, you got 2 more pillow block bearings. And the belts used are sewing machine belts. They're 1/4 inch thick. 1/4 inch wide. This one right here is 14 5/8 inches long. The other one at this end is 22 inches long. The barrels I used, I picked up this big green 7-Up cooler. It's a 5-gallon a can cooler. I picked that up on eBay. And this other one is a 5-pound whey protein container that I found at the dump. Somebody throw away an empty one, so I grabbed it. Anyway, you can see the flat bar steel used in the middle and used on the end are just there to support the roller bearings. And down here, they're used to mount the motor onto the block down at the bottom. You see this got those little collars there, 5/8 inch bore collars, just hold the rods in place. And the whole thing runs like a champ. So, right now I'm tumbling flat bar steel. In fact, the same exact steel I'm using right there, that with the holes in it. I'm tumbling pieces of flat bar steel for a project I'm working on. And the big green barrel will hold approximately 120 to 125 pieces of the flat bar steel cut 5 inches long, along with about 5 pounds of crushed walnut tumbling medium. The smaller barrel will hold 70 pieces of flat bar steel, along with about 4 pounds of crushed walnut shells. I could actually put a little bit more walnut shells in the big barrel, but it doesn't really matter. It works fine with what I have in it. So I let this thing run for approximately 3 hours. It'll tumble a total of about 200 pieces of flat bar steel if I use both barrels. Of course, in either barrel you can put whatever you want. You can put parts in there. You can put shells if you're a reloader. Whatever you want to put in there, it works great. Okay, so I'm going to turn it on now and let you see it work. Oh, by the way, I had some scrap rubber laying around. I used it. I put it on the feet. You see, there's some on the feet just to keep it from vibrating. All right, I'm going to turn it on. Hang on a second while I plug this in. Forgive me. Oh, before I forget, here, if you can see it, see if I can get a pretty decent picture. There's the inventory list with the parts and the prices. Hopefully you can see that. That's everything I used. Took me about, I was taking my time. Took me about 2 hours to make the whole thing. And you can make this any size you want. I mean, I only made it this big because I wanted to use 2 barrels to increase my capacity, but you can make it as small or as big as you want. Anyway, when this thing is fully loaded, when both barrels are fully loaded, there's a total of 40 pounds of weight on those bars. And see the black on the bars, those black, that's just Gorilla Tape. I use it to increase friction to help the bars roll a little bit more smoothly. And also, very important, the bar on the left is mounted. See that little white piece of wood there? I mounted it so that it's 3/4 of an inch higher than the pulley on the right. You want the barrel to be rolling kind of downhill. That's important to do on both ends. All right, I'm going to put this down and I'm going to start it up. Hang on a second. Hopefully my camera won't fall over. Here we go. And there you go. Okay, one other thing I should point out is that the motor is rated at 3100 RPM. Since the small pulley on the motor is 1 inch and the larger pulley is 4 inches, you got a 4-to-1 reduction, so it's tumbling approximately 680 or whatever 3100 divided by 4 is. That's how many RPM the barrels are tumbling. And you may think that's too fast for this application. You want it to tumble slower. I know a lot of sites say it should tumble somewhere between 40 and 50 RPM. Well, for what I'm doing, this works great. In fact, because it's tumbling a little faster, it actually gets the job done a lot sooner. And also with this cooler, you notice I got Gorilla Tape holding the lid on because the cooler doesn't seal tight. So the Gorilla Tape keeps the tumbling medium from coming out and the lid popping off. This other one screws on. So that's the tumbler. Again, I'll show a picture of the inventory list for you just in case you didn't get it before. Hopefully you can see that. I'll zoom down and then zoom back out again. So like I said, the whole thing cost me about $160 for everything you see right there. I'm sure you can do better at pricing things out. You know, source around, you can find stuff pretty cheap. Most of the stuff I bought on eBay. The barrels I bought, big barrel I bought on eBay, the way barrel I found at the dump. The fan I bought at Target, I think, for $5. The motor I bought from a local guy on Craigslist. Cost me $20 for the motor. I think it was $20. Let's see. $20, yep. Actually, the most expensive part of this whole thing was the pillow block bearings. But if you can find them cheaper somewhere else, go for it. I recommend, I have two different kinds here, you notice. One has the grease plug on it. The other doesn't. One is the orange one is a ball bearing type of pillow block bearing. That works very well, much better than this one over here that's not ball bearing. All right, but I already had these, and so I used them. I could at some point reduce the friction even further by putting the orange ones over on the left side as well, the ball bearing ones on the left side as well, but for right now it's working great, so why mess with it? Anyway, this is my do-it-yourself homemade Parts Tumbler version 2, and if you need one, it's very simple to make. It works great for mixing paint or whatever else you want to do too. So I hope you enjoy this video, and sorry for my amateurish nature in making it, but it is what it is. Thank you. Have a great day.